And good morning, everyone. Welcome to This Day. It is Tuesday, October 23rd, and kind of a nice day out. The fog is there, but we got some wind on the way. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. On our show today, we have a candidate for the State Assembly 74th District, Connie Petrie-Norris, and we're going to meet her and talk to her about some of the issues. Also, Hearing Remedy, we have Ken Post here today, and he's going to talk about many different things, what causes hearing loss, the type of different devices. They're pretty much devices nowadays that are out there for use for your hearing, and the technology behind them is just really incredible. The Pacific Air Show happened last weekend with the amazing Thunderbirds, and we're going to bring you a segment that Lisa did to give you a recap of that event, and take you over to El Toro Water District, where I had a tour of their wonderful experimental garden. It's just beautiful, all drought-tolerant plants, and the neatest thing is, as you walk around there, they have plants from around the world, from other areas that use drought-tolerant plants that fit right here in our area. Very, very cool, and kind of shows what can be done throughout the area. There are no meetings today, no open meetings today, so I don't need to tell you about that, but I do need to tell you about the weather. So today and tomorrow, we got that cooling fog that is coming in, and then it breaks apart around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and we get some very nice, pleasant weather out there. As we get to Thursday, we may get some of that fog in. However, the change comes late Thursday afternoon into the evening, where we're looking at those Santa Ana winds coming back. Now, right now, it looks like I put late winds on Thursday. That means evening, overnight into Friday type winds, and then we should see some fairly strong winds on Friday, and I don't think quite as strong as we had if you recall that one day, that one Monday, it was really strong, but probably a little bit less of that. However, you can see the temperatures spike up on Friday. Saturday, we could get those winds. Right now, depending on the forecast I look at, some have them, some don't. If we do get them, be overnight Friday into Saturday morning, then by Saturday afternoon, they should pretty much go away. Maybe a little offshore breezes, and that's about it. As we get to Sunday and Monday, by the way, we'll start to see those temperatures go back. This is normal for this time of the year. Everything kind of ebbs and flows with these winds, and the main thing is we don't want the winds to stay around for 3, 4, 5 days like they can, and that really causes a lot of problems. Here we are around our county and beyond today, just gorgeous weather, and you can see we're averaging low 80s throughout Orange County today. Beach is only about 72 or so, and if you want to go out to Palm Springs, they've moved up to about 93 degrees, and up there at Big Bear, 60 degrees going down to 34 at night. So some very pleasant weather for the next few days. And again, hopefully those winds don't cause too much problems as we get to Thursday night and into Friday. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
When other dealers say no, Capistrano Toyota says, yes, we can. Low payments? Yes, we can. Low financing for all types of credit? Yes, we can. Capistrano Toyota features 10 acres of new and certified pre-owned Toyotas, plus many used cars priced below $10,000. When other dealers say no, Capistrano Toyota says, yes, we can. Exit the 5 freeway at Camino Capistrano.
Through my window, I see the first sunlight, and I feel the warm ocean breeze. I see the waves that lulled me all night. That's what my window brings me.
Look at this.
That view is $1 million.
It's amazing we can look at these kinds of places within our budget.
You don't have a bad view from here anywhere you look.
It's all about the view. Sunday night is beach night. Sunday night at 8, only on HGTV.
I'm coming for you, Cancer. With California Protons, I now have the technology and expertise to fight with unmatched precision. I'll zero in and wear you down with radiation, millimeter by millimeter. You won't weaken me. I'll spare my tissues and protect myself against future threats. Cancer, you're history. I'm looking to the future.
Did you know that we are living longer, healthier lives than ever before? And did you know that social interaction, brain stimulation, and exercise improve your quality of life? Did you know the Saddleback College Emeritus Institute offers 200 tuition-free classes to older adults in South Orange County? With over 30-plus locations between Lake Forest and San Clemente, it has never been easier to take advantage of your third act of life. Sign up today.
Well, your district for the State Assembly is the 74th District, and I'd like to welcome a candidate who is running for that position, and that is Kati Petri-Norris. Welcome.
Thank you
nice
so
to meet you.
much. Pleasure to meet you, and a real pleasure to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us a bit about yourself, because people may be watching and hearing you for the first time. I kind of doubt it. With all the different ads and flyers out there, they've probably heard your name.
Well, I'm Kati Petri-Norris. I'm a businesswoman, I'm a community leader, and I'm a working mom. I've got two wonderful small boys. I grew up not too far down the road. I grew up in San Diego County.
Okay.
I grew up in a hardworking union family, and thanks very much to good California public schools and a couple of wonderful teachers who really inspired me. I was able to go on to Yale University. I studied English and economics, and for the past 20 years, I've had a career in finance and technology. I've worked both for large Fortune 500 corporations here and abroad, and I've also been part of the founding team of a couple of technology startups.
Ah, well, that's always good, especially in this state, right?
Absolutely, yes. Technology is changing so much of what we do and how we do it, and changing so many of the jobs that people do today. We've got to make sure we stay in front of that.
You know, you spin your head one way and it's changed.
Right,
that's the way it is.
absolutely.
Well, happy to have you here today. So let's kind of get into things because we have a short amount of time. Back in, I think it was May or June, I always forget when this is published, U.S. News and World Report published the state rankings, and California was 31st. Fairly low, in the bottom 20 anyway. And in some ways we did well in the economy. We were 4th, healthcare 11th. But when we look at the quality of life, we were dead last. Physical stability, we were 43rd, and so on. Even opportunity, we were 46. So obviously over the last 10 years or so, primarily we've been, the state legislature have been Democrats, and obviously our governor. You're a Democrat. If you looked at that and not knowing who anybody was, you'd going, well, what's going on in this state? Shouldn't we be changing things out?
Right, we've got some very real challenges that we need to acknowledge and we need to address. So, like I said in my introduction, I very much am a child of the California dream. I believe in the California dream, and I want to make sure that we are creating opportunities today for little girls and little boys growing up all across the state of California to have the same opportunities to succeed that I did, and to achieve their California dream. And to me, that's not just a nice thing to do. It's the right thing to do for individuals, it's the right thing to do for our communities, and it's also the right thing to do to ensure the long-term economic growth of California. And we do need to acknowledge and address some of our big challenges. So, you know, we have a growing and incredibly serious homeless crisis all across the state of California. California is the wealthiest state in the union, and we're also the poorest state in the union. We have the highest rate of poverty in the United States of America. And we cannot continue to be a world-class economic power if we don't confront that and address it and make sure that we continue to create opportunities for everyone to live their California dream.
Okay, let's look at two different propositions that are on the ballots right now. And they both are, a lot of them are hot ticket items, but these are two. One is Prop 6 and one is Prop 10. Prop 6, by the way, would, in a nutshell, would reverse the increase of the gas and registration taxes and that sort of thing. That is, if it passes. Proposition 10, if that passes, would allow from the best of my knowledge, local governments to dictate rent hikes and things like that. So on one hand, when you look at the increase of gas tax, I know when I looked at my registration this year, my car is a year old. I have never seen in my life living in California my registration go up. Usually if your car is a year old, 2 years old, it goes down. It went up by nearly $100. We know the increase of the gas tax. That certainly affects this community. On one hand, our state is like saying, yeah, let's raise these taxes and fees. But on the other hand, they want to dictate to people who own rental properties to lower, or no, you can't raise your stuff. Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't we start with the state lowering taxes and fees?
So this election is incredibly important. I really do believe that this is the most important election of our lifetimes, and it's certainly true at the federal level. It's true at the state level. It's also true when you look at some of the questions that we are bringing to voters. So let me first talk about Proposition 6, and that is addressing SB 1, which is the bill, which is the legislation that increased taxes on both gas and on vehicle registrations. And I think it's very appropriate that this is being submitted to the voters, and I think the voters have a really tough decision to make, because while SB 1 has been unpopular and as you said, it definitely hits people in their pocketbooks, we know that California is facing a real challenge when it comes to our infrastructure. A recent article in Orange County Register pointed out that California's infrastructure, the quality of our roads and our bridges, are some of the poorest in the country. We actually are at the bottom, at or near the bottom, something like 8 out of 11 categories. So we know that we need to invest in California's infrastructure. And I think what a lot of people, I think, are looking at is saying, well, actually, in the long term, it's going to cost me less to pay a little bit more at the pump rather than drive on roads where there's potholes and where there's danger, and that could actually end up costing you more. But people have a tough choice to make, and I think, like I said, I think it's important that this is going before the voters, and I trust the decision that the voters are going to make on that one.
Okay, so Prop 10 again would allow local governments to dictate rent increases and things like that. And shouldn't the people who own those properties dictate that? It's certainly, no matter how you get across California, at least along the coastal areas, it's very expensive to live. If you go inland, it's about half the price. If you go to another state, it's a quarter of the price. It is what it is.
Absolutely.
Why should somebody tell you or me what to charge for my rent?
So we are facing a affordable housing crisis all across the state of California. And I believe that's the motivation behind the folks that put Proposition 10 on the ballot. I am of the belief that rent control is not the way that we solve our affordable housing crisis. So it sounds like you, I am not a supporter of that bill. All right,
I want to talk about the Fair Pay Act. Tell us what it is, and give us a little background and your views on it.
The Fair Pay Act was passed in the state of California in 2016. It essentially tries to codify the fact that women deserve equal pay for equal work. What's really, I think, been important about this legislation is it hasn't just affected the state of California. Since it was passed in California in 2016, 31 other states have adopted similar legislation. I think it's an incredible example of where California can lead the way, for the rest of the country. And what I think it's important for folks to know is that the Fair Pay Act was a universally popular bipartisan piece of legislation. Out of California's 120-member legislature, only 2 people voted against the Fair Pay Act. And unfortunately, our current representative, Assemblyman Harper, was one of those people. So 2 people voted against the Fair Pay Act. He was one of them.
Okay, I'll ask him that when I see him, because I have a daughter. I obviously have a wife, so
absolutely.
I want them to
I think it's an important question.
Equally treated. Let's talk about the effects of Proposition 47 to 57. Long story short, it was letting criminals out early. And a lot of times they say they were nonviolent criminals. Well, unfortunately, what the law said, you have to look at their last crime, which may have not been nonviolent, but they might have indeed had a violent act their previous crime. So it's become a mess. Our crime rates have gone up, and we've upped the threshold for what we consider a felony. You know, our home's been broken into a couple times. I know what that feels like. And under the new law, that wouldn't even be a felony.
So public safety is one of my #1 priorities. I'm really proud to have the endorsement of California's Attorney General, who's our top law enforcement officer. I've also got the endorsement and support of the California Professional Firefighters. In terms of criminal justice reform, I think that we need to make sure that as we implement criminal justice reforms, we don't do so at the expense of public safety. For me, the real opportunity for us and for California when we look at criminal justice reform is when you look at people who have committed really low-level crimes. Because I think sometimes what can happen is you get kids who make silly mistakes, you know, they're 16, 17, 18 years old. If they get entrenched in the criminal justice system, they go from kids that made some silly mistakes to actual criminals. And I think the fact that our incarceration rates in California are sky high, again, some of the highest in the nation, certainly some of the highest in the world, that's not just bad for individuals, not just bad for communities, that's also draining an unbelievably large amount of resources from our economy. So #1, I absolutely would not do anything that would compromise our public safety. But #2, I think that there's opportunities for us to spend some of the resources that right now we're spending to incarcerate low-level criminals. I think if we invest those in community programs and rehabilitation programs, that's going to have a better outcome for individuals and for our communities as a whole.
So should we look at the individual as a whole, meaning, unfortunately, a judge did come out and said, you know, the 3 strikes law, you can only look at that last criminal act, which may have been very minor. You've got to throw away the rest, which could have been major, and that seems to be the problem. We're letting out the way they basically may be well-intended but poorly written laws.
And I think there are cases where that does happen, where you've got good intent, but then the way that the execution happens, you know, is not what was intended.
Okay.
And I absolutely think that for every case, we do need to look at the whole picture, and we need to consider that when we make decisions about individuals and about, you know, whether or not they are ready to be part of the community and can be a contributing part of the community.
Okay, we got about a minute left.
Okay.
You're on a station here that serves a senior community. What are a couple of the challenges you think are really facing seniors that are something that you would like to look into more and help out with?
Well, I think we all know that California's senior population is growing rapidly. By between now and 2030, in the next 12 years, it's going to grow by like 50%. And so I think there's a few things that are really important priorities. #1 is I'm committed to protecting Proposition 13, making sure that we keep taxes low so that seniors can stay in their homes. I think that's very important. #2 is healthcare. As I talk to folks all across the community, healthcare is a major concern. And I think that we need to develop a robust solution to healthcare so that that's something that our seniors aren't struggling with. And #3, we absolutely need to start planning now for California's long-term care needs. So we do not have an integrated and kind of strategic plan to address California's long-term care needs, and those are going to keep growing as our senior population grows. And I think that it's really important for people to be able to age in place and to be able to receive long-term care in their homes. So that's something that would be a priority for me as well.
All right, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. If you want to know more about Kati, very easy. There's the website, votekati.com, and you can find out more about her background, her views on the issues, and that way you can be informed. We'll be back in just a moment.
All right. Thank you so much. Great to be here.
We give everybody the same amount.
All right.
So just up the ways from Laguna Woods is the El Toro Water District headquarters. And I'm standing here with Sherry Seitz with the El Toro Water District. We're going to take a little tour in their brand new garden, their WaterWise demonstration garden, right?
Yes, we're so excited to share this with the community.
It's a beautiful opportunity for people to see what can be done to have water-wise, drought-tolerant plants. And you may not have all the space that you folks have, but this can all be done in just a small space and just give people general ideas, right?
Correct, yes. We have over 100 varieties, so there is more than enough to pick from for your specific needs.
All right, well, it's a beautiful day out here, a little windy, but it's perfect. Let's take a walk, right?
All right, let's
okay.
go.
So tell me how this garden started out.
So about 5 years ago, we partnered with the Saddleback College landscape design alumni to design a conceptual drawing on what we could do with this space. And we got their design, and then we worked with Richard Fisher and Associates on an actual landscape architect design. And then when the funding was right and the grants and rebates were available, that's when we moved ahead with the project a few years ago, and it's finally complete.
You did such a great job, all your landscape folks, and it's beautiful, and yet, again, these plants don't require a lot of water or really a lot of maintenance, right?
That's correct. They're California-friendly, drought-tolerant, and native plants throughout the garden.
And what's also great is people can walk around here, and I certainly don't know the names of a lot of these plants. Most of them I don't, but you've got little signs all around the area. So those people who know that kind of stuff, they'll be able to look at them and understand them.
Correct. They can take a picture with their cell phone of the plant and the plant ID sign. And just around the corner is our Mediterranean garden. If you garden in California, chances are you enjoy what is known as Mediterranean climate. Though the boundaries are not precise, California's Mediterranean climate region is usually described as west of the Sierra Nevada mountains and south of Mendocino, but does not include the southeastern part of the state. And actually, a couple weeks ago, we had Boy Scouts from 4 troops represented that came out on a rainy day to help install all these garden signs, in addition to representatives from the Lake Forest Garden Club. So it was a great community project.
Yeah, very nice. Now, if people want to come out here and see this, I understand that it's open 365 days a year for self-guided tours, right?
That's correct. Yes, we have brochures at both the entrance signs, and they can walk through, look at all the different plants, see what they can use in their area, and then during the year we will have landscape classes and tours available throughout the year.
Now, I have to ask, what was here before? Was it just lawn?
So originally, there was 27,000 square feet of water-thirsty turf and about 6,000 square feet of vegetation that we replaced. So we're saving, we're approximating about 50% in water use.
Wow.
By redoing the garden.
And people might see a little turf behind us or in the background, but that is artificial turf.
To show you that how great it looks, and with the plants around it, that's kind of soften up the artificial turf.
Now, as far as all the different plants that are out here, I may not know the names of them, but looking at all of them, I can see that most of them can easily be found at the big box hardware stores and some of the nurseries around here. They're easy to come by, right?
Correct, yes, they are.
And I know from experience that some of these that I have, you can just buy small little containers. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and they'll begin to fill in very nicely. So for a small amount of money, you can really get started.
That's correct, absolutely. And start small and then expand every year.
Now, underneath the brush here, you have the mulch, which is, of course, is a good idea in any garden, even if you don't have a drought-tolerant garden, right?
Yeah. Yes, mulch prevents weeds, and it also retains water for the plants.
And as far as the kind of mulch that you have here, this is not artificial. This is real wood chips, right?
Real wood chips, and you put about 2 to 3 inches layer on.
All right, and that's the key. I learned that a long time ago. If you put a thin little layer, it doesn't do you much good. But spring for buying a few extra bags, and they're always on sale this time of the year. this is the time to do that, and it looks a lot nicer, and it will really hold the moisture in and prevent the weeds.
Yeah, and we also have a drip irrigation system throughout the property, so it helps keep that moisture in the soil.
So these plants do get irrigated water, right? So at certain times of the year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Actually, we're on a smart weather-based irrigation controller that controls it based on the weather.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know parts of the community that Laguna Woods has that as well. So that's very, very helpful, and it knows the weather coming in and how much it's going to be. Like if we get a little rain or something, then it knows I don't need to turn on right now.
Correct, absolutely. And right now there's rebates for smart irrigation controllers and for drip irrigation and to remove turf. So
where can people find the rebates?
So if they go to etwd.com and go to water conservation, they can find the rebate page.
Oh, very nice. Now, as far as how large this is, you were just telling me how much turf you replace. It really goes back quite far. Now it's we're on Los Alisos here, but around the area, around your parking lot and the little strip that goes against the road here, you did all that as well, right?
Correct, yes. It encompasses both sides of the driveway and the parking lot and the parkways.
What about any other material that you had to replace that was over there? Was there plants over there before, or was that
yes, it was
turf?
All vegetation over there.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've utilized, obviously you can see the decomposed granite walkways and the dry riverbeds and the artificial turf. And the dry riverbeds actually collect the water, any water runoff, and it percolates down into the soil so it doesn't run off into the storm drain and out to the ocean. So
that's a very important factor, because sometimes people in the area that have homes in the area might do something like this, but they don't account for when we do get heavy rains, where does that water go? It still has to go somewhere.
Right, absolutely. And then you can also, next to the dry riverbeds, you can plant plants so that water that's going in there will feed those plants.
Wow, so it's all synergy, right? Again, people can come up here 365 days a year. It's always open.
Yep.
And take a walk around. There are these plaques all over, and you saw us walk around. There's one way down there at the other end. And in each place is going to tell you about that particular location, right?
Yeah, we have 4 themed gardens, Mediterranean, Australian, South African, and a succulent garden. And then we also have signage on water conservation. So, yeah.
Wow, it's like a little trip around the world.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for giving us a tour. I really appreciate it. And it just shows that, drought-tolerant plants, water-wise plants, whatever you want to call them, can be absolutely beautiful. They can be inexpensive if you start small and you got something planned out in advance. That's the key. You can end up with an absolutely beautiful, usable garden, right?
Absolutely.
Sherry, thank you very much. Always good to see you and all the folks from the El Toro Water District. And you can go online to etwd.com. You can get more information in general about the Water District, about this garden, and what you can do, even if you have a little patio, how you too can be water-wise.
Thank you.
I choose to make friends out of neighbors.
I choose to start a new chapter.
I choose to live an active lifestyle.
Choose to experience the good life at Villa Valencia. Call or visit us today.
Welcome back. Did you know that hearing loss can actually be related to Alzheimer's and dementia? I had no idea that that can happen, but Ken Post is here to tell us a little bit about what is going on. Well, welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again, yes.
So, but before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about some hearing loss, factors. What does that entail?
One of the things they learned, and they've been doing a lot of studies, one of the things they've learned is how much blood flow it takes in the inner ear. The cochlea needs good blood flow to hear well. Okay. So anything that affects that can affect your hearing. And that's from diabetes, high blood pressure, even lack of exercise. That you don't get as good blood flow, you don't get it, your hearing can diminish because you don't have enough blood flow to have that cochlea, the inner ear, to work properly.
Wow. You know, I hear exercise all the time when we talk to various people. And it's true, you know, getting your blood flow is really a good thing, and the exercising, which is interesting because you wouldn't think that your ears would have that much trouble.
Yeah, yeah, well, your ears, your eyes, all of our important parts, they all take blood flow. So.
Okay, all right, good. Hearing and cognitive decline. So I know we talked a little bit about some of the other things that can happen, but when you say cognitive decline, what are you referring to?
I mean, in general, as we age, our brain slows down. We can't do so many things at one time. I remember being able to do multitask like crazy. It's like, no, give me a one task now, I'm pretty good. I can maybe break into that. But it's just a natural way, it's just our brain. But we can do a lot of things to keep the brain more active and keep things going. The more things we keep the brain going with, the healthier our brain stays.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, is keep our brain healthy over the period of time so we can get to an older age and still function well.
So by having a hearing aid or hearing aids, what are some of the benefits by having a hearing aid that can contribute to development of our brain? Okay.
Well, one of the things that can happen with as we don't hear as well, we tend to lose the high frequencies. There's certain consonants, letters that have high frequencies in them. The T, S, TH, they have high frequencies in them.
Okay.
As we lose that, we have trouble distinguishing those letters.
Okay.
So we know someone's saying something because we hear all the other letters, but we don't hear certain letters that are important to know what the word is.
Okay.
So that's why a lot of people say you're mumbling.
Oh,
literally, it does sound that way. You lose as you lose that high frequency and you lose certain letters.
Yes.
It's just like someone's mumbling.
Oh, wow.
You don't get it. You know that when you mumble, when someone mumbles, you know they're saying something. There's no doubt in your mind.
Right, right.
So your brain starts to try to figure out other ways. So the brain's going to go maybe use context. You never put a cat on your head, so it must have been a hat.
Oh.
This kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that, and your brain's using your eyes. You can see when someone says a T, your lips do a certain movement. So your brain starts picking up clues from your eyes to figure out what the wording is.
Right.
And context. Well, if you can think about it, your brain's, oh, what was that word? I'm trying to figure out, well, in the meantime, the conversation is still flowing. So now your brain's working overtime trying to catch up with the conversation.
Wow, okay.
All this stuff works kind of against you because your brain's using a ton of energy.
Right.
People get exhausted after a conversation because you're using more than you need to from your eyes and just figuring out what the words are.
Right.
And it also makes it harder to remember. It's harder to take those words and put them into the memory part of your brain when your brain's working overtime trying to figure out the conversation.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things that kind of work against you as you don't hear well.
Yeah.
And as you bring that up so you can hear all those things, now I got other things I can do with my brain. I can be remembering better. Our memory loss is tied in to hearing.
Right.
Now people theorized it. Now they've been spending the last 15, 20 years doing studies and proving that that is the case. It is the case that when people have normal hearing, they're looking at those aren't the people that are tending towards dementia and Alzheimer's. It's people that aren't hearing well. They're not exercising the brain well.
Right.
Another thing that we wouldn't think of at all is that our brain has a part of it from the caveman days that is always listening to everything going on. Like I just heard a funny noise over there.
Okay.
The brain's trying to figure out, it hears these in the background. It goes, I know that noise. I'm not even going to bring it up to consciousness.
Right.
I know this noise. You hear something weird? What's that?
Right.
And that most of those sounds are high frequency sounds that we tend to lose.
Right.
And if we're not doing that, we're not exercising that part of the brain that's protecting us. It's keeping an animal from sneaking up and taking a bite out of us.
Oh gosh.
We don't worry about anymore, right? But it was a problem, you know, many, many years ago.
Well, right, and those poor people never heard it coming. So, you know, what were they going to do? There was no hearing aids then.
Yeah.
So you kind of went into a little bit about dementia and Alzheimer's, but tell me how, you know, loss of hearing does affect those.
Yeah. Well, they've been doing studies, and they've noticed that it's more likely that you're going to go into dementia and Alzheimer's when you don't have hearing, when you don't have good hearing. People, they look at, okay, well, what's the likelihood if you have really good hearing of doing that? And they're looking at the numbers from their studies going, look, there's a correlation between hearing well and dementia and Alzheimer's. But then the other question was, well, what about, but if you're wearing hearing aids, does that help you? Or is it somehow all tied together, and if your hearing's not good, it's not going to be that way? So they had to do more studies to say, okay, if someone has hearing aids, does that get them back into the good hearing column when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's? They found out, yes, it does help. There's a slight difference in some studies, and there's no difference in some studies. So they've shown that, oh, yes, the hearing aids get you back into a better chance of avoiding those things.
Okay, well, and also sociability we talked a little bit about, because, you know, if you can hear better, then you can have a better conversation, you can be more involved, you can hear what's going on around you. Okay, so now speaking about, we've been leading up to, you know, the whole hearing thing. So show us the tiny German designed hearing aid that you have with you, which you can't see now.
With me,
you can't see it, no.
And you probably never guessed that I was wearing a hearing aid.
And look how tiny that is.
Look how tiny this is.
So tiny.
These are not custom ones. Usually you have to have custom. This has a piece that's the same for everybody, and just the end of it is set up for by the whoever's setting your hearing aids up. Is going to find the right piece that will be comfortable in your ear and keep it in the ear.
Oh.
So you don't have to wait. These can be dispensed first time. You sit down and we can get these on you, and you walk out with a. With better hearing.
So now because it's not custom, does that make it a little more affordable? Or are they still because of the technology?
You're paying for the technology inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And there are different levels of these.
Sure.
So they're more affordable. This is the second generation of these. So the first generation comes down in price some.
Okay.
So we do have more of a spectrum. When they first came out, yes, it was only high end.
Right.
Now we're going from middle to high end with these.
Well, right, and we were talking before the segment a little bit about how hearing aids can become more affordable, and as technology improves, you know, like we were talking about phones, when they come out with the iPhone 10, you know, the iPhone 6 and 7 and 8 become less expensive.
Right.
And that's the same thing with the hearing aids, right?
Exactly the same thing. As the high end, they find out some other great bell and whistle everybody wants.
Right.
Well, the next one comes down in price. So what's great is the last 3-4 years, hearing aids have done an incredible amount of improvement.
Right.
I mean, amazing. So now you find out if you buy a hearing aid that was, say, made 3 years ago, well, you save a lot more money. You may save $2,000-3,000 on that, on a pair, but you're getting that technology, that huge improvement that's been going on is now trickling down into the lower prices.
Good. Well, that's good for people who are bargain shoppers and want to hear better. Well, thank you so much. It was very nice of you to share that information. So now put that back in so you can hear.
Get that back in.
All right. And if you want more information, you can always call the Hearing Remedy at 949-340-8438. Stay tuned, because I had a great opportunity to interview the Air Force Thunderbird pilot number 3 who performed at the Pacific Air Show this last weekend. Take a look. All right. Good job.
Well,
thank you. I hope that
I'm standing in front of the United States Air Force Air Demonstration Squadron, the Thunderbirds, who perform in air shows across the country. Their job is to delight the audience with their aviation skills, speed, pride, and spirit of American aviation. I'm with Major Nathan Hoffman, who is the number 3 Air Force Thunderbird. Well, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Lisa, for having me.
Well, this is a really great opportunity. So how long have you been flying the number 3 plane?
So this is my second year on the team. So I've been flying for about just over 2 years now, including the training season, which actually starts for my replacement right now. In fact, my replacement's at home, starting to get some of his first flight requirements knocked out, and then getting ready to take over the training season.
Okay, so you only get to fly 2 years. I thought it was a little longer than that.
Yes, ma'am. It's a 2-year assignment. It ends up working out to be about 2.5 years. We're on the road 250 days a year, and we do about 35 different show sites to about 72 different air shows. And that's a lot of time away from the family. And so there's a 2-year limit on what our families will accept.
Well, I think that's a good idea because then it gives you other opportunities to do other things for the Air Force, correct?
It really does, absolutely. So from here, a lot of us will go on to future education opportunities through professional military education. I myself am going to go back to flying Gray Vipers out in South Korea.
Oh, wow. That sounds very exciting. All right, let me ask you, what kind of physical, mental, and just education process goes into being a fighter pilot?
To become a fighter pilot, it's a very competitive process, and that's somewhat by design, but also by the sheer numbers of folks that want to go on and fly on the leading edge and employ based on our best national interests. So everyone that's a pilot, a fighter pilot, is an officer, so it requires a 4-year degree at the very least. Many go on and do masters and other advanced options. And then once you commission as an officer, you'll go to about 2 years of pilot training. The first year is learning how to fly, both in a T6 or a T-38. And then once you graduate there, it's another year in your weapon system to become fully qualified for combat.
Okay, and then at what point then do you get to fly a jet after that?
Absolutely. So when we start flying, we learn in a small 2-seat airplane, front and back tandem seat. And it's a lot like a P-51. So for those who are Warbird fans, my understanding is that the performance and handling is very similar to that. Incredible airplane to fly, and that's about 6 years. Then your first time in a centerline thrust aircraft is in the T-38, as you're learning how to fly a little bit faster, a little bit more maneuverable airplane.
Now from a physical standpoint though, you obviously have to stay in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely. These aircraft right here are Block 52 F-16s. And they're capable of pulling up to 9 Gs. And basically that's about a multiple of your body weight. So right now we're standing at 1 G. If we were to experience 2 times our body weight, that's 2 Gs and so on. So 9 times your body weight gets pretty heavy, and you've got to be in pretty good cardio and muscular shape just to keep the brain fully fueled with blood and oxygen so that you don't black out.
Yeah, well, that would be an awful thing. And I actually knew that you were in the Block 52 series.
Nice.
I'll have you know, and I'm just going to prove it to you. Look,
cool.
52 Block series.
Exactly.
I knew that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the difference between flying over water and flying over land.
So flying over water is a unique challenge, and we don't get this opportunity at many of the show sites we go to, so we always appreciate it. The air is very stable over water, so the conditions are very smooth. And it allows us to really keep the formations really tight and stable throughout the demonstration. But it also presents unique challenges in terms of environmental impacts. So if you get hazy or cloudy layers that are close to water, sometimes it's difficult to discern where the sky is and where the water is, and it lends itself to spatial disorientation. So we take extra precautions and use certain aspects of the jet that allow us to make sure that we're putting on a 100% safe demonstration.
Okay, well, that's a good definition between the two, because I'm sure it does change. So as we were talking before, you know, there are a lot of young men and women who would love to be pilots. Tell me why now is such a good time for someone to maybe explore that opportunity with the Air Force?
Now's a fantastic time to start to pursue any kind of occupation in aviation, whether it be the civilian route or the military route. And what I would say to anybody is that aviation isn't for everybody, but the people that have a passion for aviation know it. And it's just something that's inside of you that you can't shake. And that's kind of what happened to me. Is I signed up for the military and was told I would never fly. I still had that passion to be in the air. And so what I would tell young people today is that you can never give up. It's a great time right now to learn and develop and become experienced aviators through a variety of general aviation opportunities. But you basically have an environment right now that is craving anyone. So if you have even the slightest inkling that you would want to pursue a career in aviation, now's the time to get into it.
Good answer. I like that answer. Okay, so now what I will say is that many of our viewers are veterans of all different branches of the military. So I would ask you, what would you say to them? And then also, how has being in the Air Force changed your perspective in life?
Those are two incredibly difficult questions. The first thing I would say to any veteran, and the thing that I love to say to all our veterans, is thank you for your service. We would not be the country we are today without them. And so my hat is off. I salute them proudly, and they're the inspiration for me to want to continue to make our Air Force and our military the best that it can possibly be, so that we can continue to enjoy the freedoms that we have. So bottom line is thank you for your service and sacrifice for our country, because they really laid the groundwork. My perspective has changed throughout my time in the Air Force. I've been in 13 years in December, and what I would say is I've never been more proud of my Air Force. I've never been more proud of the people that I get to work with. And I've never been more confident that we are going to continue to win our nation's wars. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot in the news that is very discouraging. The constant fighting that goes on between groups, and in some regards I think is embarrassing. But I can tell you that regardless of what powers may be, the people that are in the military today are going to give their utmost for our country, and that, as far as I'm concerned, will never change.
This has been an awesome adventure with the United States Air Force Thunderbirds here at the Joint Forces Base in Los Alamitos. Thanks for watching.
#1 choice for wood flooring and more is LA Carpet.
Now during their 2-day sale, visit their showroom now and get 65% off wood flooring, laminate, and waterproof flooring.
Plus, get 5-year, 0% financing.
LA Carpet, #1 for you.
Oh, we're commenting on our new lights.
New lights? I didn't see those new lights.
We got some new lights here. They're really
See
cool.
what happens when I'm not here for 2 days? They get new lights.
Paul I think just put them up yesterday
Nice.
afternoon.
Well, I like them.
Great.
They're good.
You're going to talk about our Friday movie, and then we're going to show you a clip from our Monday.
Oh, I am? Oh, okay.
Oh, did you want to talk about
No,
this?
Sure.
Okay. I got it wrong.
So it
supposed
is
to. That's all
Lay
right.
Girls, and it's going to be Friday, October 26th, and that's at 2 and 7 p.m. And this is an older movie, obviously from 1957. It has Gene Kelly, Mitzi Gaynor, and Kay Kendall. When dancer Sybil Wren, who's Kay Kendall, pens a memoir about her time in a troupe with 2 other women, she incurs the wrath of her former peers. And Angel Ducras, Tina Elge, and Joy Henderson, Mitzi Gaynor, leads to a lawsuit and the presence of Barry Nichols, who's Gene Kelly, the mastermind behind the troupe, who presents his perspective as accusations of affairs fly between the women. Truth is slowly revealed, helped along by some lovely musical numbers and dancing, of course.
Yeah.
You can't have no dancing, Gene Kelly in there. So looks fun.
Yeah,
and it's about an hour and 54 minutes, and most of these movies back then were not rated.
No, they weren't.
So
no.
it's just dancing and singing.
And then our movie coming up on Monday is Hocus Pocus, which came out in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Ninjami, and we're going to show you a trailer from that. So good movie for Halloween, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a look at that.
Twist the bones and bend the back.
Back in 1693, the people of Salem, Massachusetts, witches,
Yes?
thought they got rid of the Sanderson sisters for good.
We shall be back!
300 years later, it's Halloween Eve, and they're back.
We're home!
Are you boys a little old to be trick-or-treating?
We're talking about 3 ancient hags versus the 20th century. How bad can it be?
Now they're digging up old friends
God, what a stench!
and running amok,
Amok.
looking for the one thing they miss most.
You stay for supper. I'm not hungry. Oh, but we are.
Only one boy has the power to stop them
Prepare to die again! You have no powers here, you fool!
before all Salem falls under their spell.
Hello, you!
Walt Disney Pictures presents Bette Midler,
Hello?
Sarah Jessica Parker,
Would thou dance with me?
and Kathy Najimy. Hocus Pocus.
Into the night!
They love to fly, and it shows.
Good night. Sleep tight. No screaming.
Yeah, great movie for Halloween. Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Ninjami, they play the witches there. And then a very young Thora Birch plays the little girl, who's done many movies since then. Fun movie, perfect for
Halloween week. Yep.
Yeah. Now, I want to tell you about a forum that's coming up. We've had on 3 of the candidates for the Saddleback Valley Unified School District Board of Education. There's still 1 candidate. There's 4 all in total. 2 will be elected. So if you would like to go to their forum, this is the district that you are in. You are all invited. This is coming up tomorrow night, Wednesday, October 24th, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that will be at their boardroom, which is on Peter Hartman Way in Mission Viejo. That's right off Geronimo. So you're invited to go and ask the questions, and I think they're all going to be there as far as I know.
I think it's a good idea to go to any of those things because
Yeah.
honestly, when you read about them, you really don't get any feel for who they are.
Right.
You really don't, so that's a good thing. Okay,
Yeah.
and then on Thursday, October 25th, we have in Clubhouse 5, Recharging Your Body and Mind. And Dr. Trin will be there, who they're talking about reducing your risk for Alzheimer's. And obviously there's so many factors that go into it. There's fasting and mind diet and a variety of other things. It is limited seating, so they really would like you to RSVP as soon as possible. And you can call 949-426-1598, or you can call 949-330-3610, or you can go on an email and do lcolavita@memcarehh.com. So you can attend that. So that looks like an interesting thing to do. And then one other quick one, we've got Richard O'Brien's Rocky Horror Show, and that is going to be at the Performing Arts Center, and that's October 25th through the 28th and November 1st through the 4th. Tickets are online, and you can go to ivcar.ts.org, or you can call 949-451-5333. So.
Yeah, that's fun. I'm good. I haven't been up, that's the auditorium at the Irvine Valley College. I haven't been to that one.
Right.
I've been to the Saddleback one, but they do great productions. You've been to that movie, right? Years ago where you got up and did all this stuff?
I love it.
This is interactive. They're doing the exact same thing.
Oh, fun.
So,
because it doesn't say Rocky Horror Picture Show, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it's a live
presentation. Okay, but it's a live, so that would be a load of fun.
Yes, a lot of interaction. All right, the weather, very nice. Another day or 2 of the fog in the morning, but then the Santa Ana winds are due back. And it looks like right now they're going to come back Thursday late afternoon or overnight into Friday. Friday being the strongest winds. And we'll see how strong they are right now. As you saw the last round of winds, we didn't get too bad in Orange County. The previous ones we did, but we'll see about this. Should only last about a day and a half for the winds. We'll see if they come over into Friday, but you see the temperatures will rise up, and then once we get to probably about Monday, the temperatures will go back down again to 80 degrees or 78, but
the more mild.
Yeah, this is the weather that I like right now. So
of course you do.
Yeah. All right. Here we are around Orange County. Today, another beautiful day, as you saw yesterday. The clouds parted fairly early, as they are right now. If you're watching us in the morning, we got some great temperatures there. The beaches are fairly mild at 72 degrees, and everywhere else in the low 80s. And a quick reminder: we're going to this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as down at the Pageant of the Masters. They're doing Pageant of the Monsters. They only do this every 4 years for families. A lot of fun. They suggest 5 and up. So look on that. Just go to the, look up the Pageant of the Masters website, connect to that, and they'll be there. So we're going on Saturday.
And the weather's going to be good.
It's like $15, $20, $12 for kids. So
sounds like fun.
A lot of fun.
All right, tomorrow we have the Senior Center, we have Harvard Eye, we have the Reform Temple, and then we also have Tom Nash with Thrive. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.